this is the Absurdly Nerd top 10 video games from 2010 to 2019. The way we came up with this list is we each did a top 10, and then I compiled the lists and gave them points. You know, like number 1 gets 10 points, 2 gets 9 points, and so on. And we added them up, and then the highest points got into the top 10. So this is our consensus top 10.
So if anything's out of place, blame them too.
Yeah. And,
I'm ready to be pissed about this list.
I just want if you disagree or agree, comment in the comment section, and we'll be down there discussing it with you as well. Number 10, Spider-Man PS4.
Hell yes, dude. I'm so happy that it made it. Yes.
Yeah.
That was my number 10. I was worried it wasn't going to make the list because it was my number 10.
I had it pretty high.
Yeah, it was on both y'all's lists. It was 6 on Eric's and number 10 on yours.
Dude, it's such a great game, and I feel like it gets overshadowed because of the other games that came out that year, like God of War. There's something else that came out that year.
Was that Red Dead Redemption that year?
Yes, that's it. And so like it failed like to the 3 slot. You know, it wasn't talked about as much as the other two, but it is a really great game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it holds its own against those two games because it's such a different genre. You know, like for what it is, you can't really ask for a better Spider-Man game. Like we hope that the second one's even better, but if it's just more of the same, that's fine because that game was stellar.
Yeah, I love that game. I just replayed it this year, and it's just like playing a new game pretty much. It's just that much fun to jump back in and play that game.
Number 9, Bioshock 2.
Nice. I didn't think it was going to make the list.
I didn't think it was going to make it.
This is only on one person's list.
Oh, I had it really high.
Yeah.
Well, I looked to see if Bioshock 1 came out in this decade, and it did not. It came out in 2009. And I was like, everyone would have Bioshock on that list, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I understand why some people think less of Bioshock 2, but it's enough like the first one. Personally, I like it better because the gameplay to me feels better, and it's not as scary, which I see as a negative.
It feels more action oriented.
Yeah, and I get that. I get that people don't like that about it, but it's enough like the first one and better in certain areas that I had to include it because that series to me is an all-time series.
You played as the Big Daddy in this one, right?
Yeah.
I think I played for about like 2 to 3 hours of it. So
Oh man,
I
I beat that game like 6 times.
It made, like when I was whittling down my list, it stayed towards the top for a while. It fell off towards the end, but
Yeah, I didn't expect either of y'all to have it just because, like I said, the general consensus is that it was a subpar sequel.
Yeah.
But for me, I wanted to have it on there because Bioshock as a series is so good.
Mm-hmm. Number 8, Skyrim.
not surprised, huh?
Yeah.
Not surprised on
No,
that one.
I didn't have it on my list. It's not my favorite of the Bethesda games. I like it, and it was in the running for a long time, but I ended up whittling it out.
I'm really
of my
surprised
list.
it fell that low, honestly.
Well, it wasn't on any of y'all's lists. It was on my list at number 4.
I thought, I guess it whittled down. I picked something else over it, but I mean, it was up there for a while.
Yeah. So
There would have been a come apart in the comment section.
If we didn't have Skyrim.
Yeah, without Skyrim on this list.
yeah, when did it come out? 2012?
Somewhere, I think it's 2011.
20. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously a
Classic. at this
classic, genre defining. Like it's stellar, and it needs to be on this list. So I'm glad it's there.
Number 7, Witcher 3. This was on one person's list.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I was worried it was going to miss the list, but for me, like it's great. Again, it was in the the master list I had that I was working from, but it just didn't hit like these other games for me.
Yeah.
Same as Murray, I had it on the big list, but when I started looking at the games, I was like, these are the ones I've put more time and I've cared about more. Like Witcher, maybe if I completed it and stuff, I'd like it better, but it fell off pretty early on.
Yeah. I'm really liking how it's working out because these games, I believe, deserve to be on a list of when
it
it's
sounds like a legit list.
right when it's a consensus. These games should be there.
Yeah. And Witcher 3 was like number 2 on my list.
Yeah, I figured it'd be
So-
high.
Yeah.
That surprises me. Though, number 2.
Number 6, Borderlands 2.
Yeah, that was number 1 on my list.
Yes, and then it was only on your list. No, it wasn't. It was on my list too. It was number 10 on my list.
I was worried that neither of y'all would have it and it'd somehow miss the list. I was like, number 1, it should be there. I just feel like that game, as far as FPS, it did so many new things with the looter shooter thing. It created a whole genre of that, finding the loot as the main mechanic of the game. And I've played no other game more than that game. So I had to put it number 1.
I really love that game, and I wish that 3 would have had that same feeling for me because 2 I didn't want to put down when I played it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it fell off. I think it hit number 12 or 11 on mine, but I had it on there for a while.
Well, I definitely don't like 3 as much. I wonder at the end of this decade. Well, actually, no, it came in this same decade, didn't it? Was it 2019?
It was 2020.
2020. Oh, well, I do wonder at the end of this decade if Borderlands 3 would be there, just because how much I love 2, and 3 is more of the same, but not quite as good.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll let y'all know in 2029.
And also, but Borderlands 3 adds something that Borderlands 2 doesn't have, which
Sliding.
slide, mantle. Like you add that to a game, it exponentially raises the game how good it is.
Yeah, there are some mechanics in 3 that make 2 feel a little less good when you go back to it, but the overall game is just far superior.
I think I just like the stories that are being told in 2 better than I do 3.
And every area feels so memorable. Whereas in 3, I don't know, some of that I could have went without some of the areas.
And it's insane to say that because they're new planets. They're
Right,
totally different planets.
that's what had me so excited. But then going to these new planets, it didn't really feel like I was going to a new planet per se. They didn't fill in the gap of travel and everything. So
Yeah. Number 5, Zelda Breath of the Wild.
That's freaking low.
Yeah.
I had it at 10, and then I thought of a game, and I dropped it out. Spider-Man dropped it out of my list. But hey, you should be happy that it's Breath of the Wild has moved up that much for me that in a whole decade it was up there for a while for me.
This was my number 1.
Yeah, this was Eric's number 1. It was my number 9. And for Merlin to even acknowledge that it's a good game is crazy because he was against it so
for
much.
For years. I mean, I wouldn't say I hated the game, but I just didn't understand why it was revered the way it was. But lately I've returned to it, and it's definitely an honorable mention for me. It's right there.
So I bought a Switch the day 1, and I wasn't even excited for Breath of the Wild, to be honest. It was a new Zelda game, but I really wasn't the biggest Zelda fan. I played most of them, but I really wasn't a huge fan. So I picked it up, and that whole weekend, that's all I played, and I fell in love with that game.
Yeah, love at first sight.
Yes, love at first play. Number 4, Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
That's a good spot.
It was only on
Where did I
y'all's
have
2
it?
list.
Yeah.
I think Merle had it at number 2.
Okay.
And Eric had it number 5.
This list is difficult because when I was doing this, it was hard to put it above a couple of the things that I put above. But at the same time, it's the most joyful game on my list. That game, I'm constantly smiling on.
Even coming back to it because I've been replaying it some. It's been such a joy to replay that game.
And it was tied with our number 3. So
Okay.
I broke the tie on number 3. Number 3, Red Dead Redemption 2.
I knew this was going to be high. Where did you guys have it?
I had it number 4.
I had it number 3.
Where did I put it?
You put it at number 5.
Okay, that tracks. I mean, yeah, I did it, so it tracks. This game had to be there. No other game told a story as well in this decade, in my opinion. The sheer scope of this game and the amount of hype, the many years that we went in between the two, and for it to land and exceed the first game by quite a bit, in my opinion. I wasn't the biggest fan of Red Dead Redemption 1. I liked it, but this game clicked from the start, and I never in my almost 100 hours lost interest at any point.
No, me either.
Yeah.
There's always fun to go do something like that game. Every mission felt like there was a big moment.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's peak Rockstar.
Yes.
Yeah. It's peak Rockstar campaign.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because Grand Theft Auto Online has some fantastic moments, especially if you're playing with friends or you're doing, running drugs and stuff like that. That's fun. But when you're playing Red Dead Redemption 2, you're in the story, you're immersed. There's no music. There's maybe one area I think that does music, but the score is awesome. The horses are dude, being a freaking cowboy is awesome, dude.
Yeah,
Because his character is so good and the story is fantastic.
Dude, move it to number 1. Screw it.
Yeah, I was just right now. Change it right now.
Number 1.
But no, it's dang near a cowboy simulator at times, but I love it. I don't know, sometimes it feels like you're doing these really simmy things, but every little thing you're doing, going to the camp and playing dominoes and stuff. Some people that probably put them off. The way it slows down, and you have to walk through camp. They might be tedious to some people, but for me, it added to that game because I was so in it.
It was always waking up at the camp, picking out your outfit for the day, walk around, maybe play dominoes, and then there's some days where I just got out and rode and didn't have a plan and just had the whole hours of playing and just doing that stuff.
Yep.
After I beat the campaign, I was like, all right, now time to go have fun and just fish, get all the legendary fish, all the legendary hunts.
Yeah. Okay, you said move it to number 1. If I think the reason it's not at number 1 for me is because halfway through the game, something changes, and that freedom feels like it's kind of taken away from you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Spoiler, skip to this time if you don't want to hear, but whenever Arthur gets sick and you know what's coming, you don't feel like exploring is important at that point. Not me personally. I started to do more mission stuff in a linear manner. Yeah.
I never felt that. It's interesting you said I didn't think about it that way because I always thought of the game as, I played Red Dead 1 and, when John dies, which you didn't see coming, when John dies, you're so you think for a split second, everything I did was for nothing. And then you get to play as his son, which is a shit character.
Oh, it's awful.
But you do get to keep exploring the game. So I figured that they would do something like that.
Well, yeah, but I think that's a part of why I was so invested in the role playing of this game. Like you said, changing clothes and everything.
Yeah.
They're like, when he got sick, I was like, no, it's urgent. You know, so everything I had to rush a little bit. But yeah, you get to play as John after the game, and I was kind of out of it at that point. So that's really my only negative to the game.
Once he got sick, I'm going to sound like an asshole. Once he got sick, I went to the general store every time and bought a pack of cigarettes, and I used to make him smoke all the time. I was like, let's just rush this along.
Let's end it.
I love the character, but I was like, he's already going to die, so let's just...
I'm surprised they didn't make it kill you faster.
Yeah, I know.
Since they got, horse testicles shriveling. And
Yeah, they make cancer kill you. Number 2, The Last of Us.
All right, that's about where I thought it would fall.
Yeah. Well, The Last of Us was on, I think it was on all 3 of our...
Should be.
Yeah,
it was on all 3 of our lists. It was number 1 on my list. I think Last of Us, when I played it, the immediate impact was felt.
Yeah.
Best story, I think, in a game. Now, they're very close. And there's other games like Red Dead and another one we're going to talk about that are just at the same level. But for some reason, I chose Last of Us. Man, everything in that game is amazing. Like the motion capture, the way it's almost as if Troy Baker was he was really acting. That's the first time I noticed acting in a game. And I'm like, dude, he is killing it. Like this accent, the facial expressions, the way he changes, it's so amazing. And then, of course, at the beginning, the sad stuff. And then what you find out about Joel in the middle of the game, like what he did to get to where he was. It's just fantastic. And then at the very end, the whole thing that he does to protect Ellie, oh my gosh.
I think for me, it was like one of the first times. There's been games with huge cinematic presence.
Yeah.
This one, I felt like it started a story and it told it the whole way through with pacing. It was perfect pacing. It's just a great game. It's just a 10 out of 10 game.
I agree with everything that you both said, but I hate to be this guy. The sequel, honestly, is the reason that it's below the next game. It would have been it would have been higher. It wouldn't have beat Borderlands just because that game is, my game. But it would have beat the next game if not for the sequel doing the things it did. Because I can't think about The Last of Us without thinking about the resolution to Joel. I don't like the direction they went in part 2, and I hate that retroactively. It's like the Star Wars trilogy. I used to like Force Awakens, but they ruined that with the decisions they made after the fact. And so I don't really care to revisit it. It's not that bad with Last of Us because, it still holds up as one of my favorite games ever. But it definitely knocked a little bit off of it and put in my opinion, better game right above it on this list for me.
See, I love 2. And if 2 would have come out in this time period, I'd have a hard time not putting it over 1. I think it's the only reason I wouldn't is because you can't really have part 2 without 1. You wouldn't care about this character.
Right,
without
they did so
1.
much to build that.
But everything else that 2 does, I really love about that game.
I love the gameplay of 2 a lot more.
I like the story. At the end of the day, I came around on it.
That's a whole nother discussion. Yeah. We'll get into that one day. We'll have a big debate between me and you about that game.
I'll moderate.
I like it.
Number 1, God of War.
I don't think anyone's surprised. It did everything right. I have no complaint with that game.
Yeah.
I had Borderlands 2 at number 1, but if I was saying what's the best game that came out this decade,
it's God of War.
I would say God of War. Yeah.
Yeah. As a person who is mostly an Xbox guy, never had a PlayStation. I've had a PlayStation at the end of the generation, but I played this twice. I beat it twice. I played it halfway through at my buddy's house, and then I bought a PlayStation 4 from you, Eric.
Yeah.
And I played it. I beat God of War. I played Spiderman and Last of Us 2. Yeah. Started it. And the combat is amazing. The character I care about because I played the other ones. It's a gritty reimagining that does it right. It's not too gritty. It's not too crazy. It's fantastic.
I played this game so fast too. The first time it came out, I called in from work that day and just spent the whole day playing through this game. And it sticks with me. That story is so great. Everything you do. I love the camera never really leaves behind. They do a good job of not cutting the focus.
Yeah.
And it's such a different game, but same game from the first 3. Where you're just rageful and vengeful. And this game teaches a lesson of you don't have to be that angry. You don't have to, you know what I'm saying? The story, the moral behind it is fantastic.
Go ahead.
The fact that it is taught to you by a freaking giant, muscled up Greek dude who killed everything in the last 3 games, killed everybody and everything. It's pretty interesting to me.
If I had to pick a 30 hours of gameplay from this decade or from all time, really, there's no 30 hours I preferred more than my 30 hours on God of War.
Yeah.
That 30 hours is just the cleanest I've ever spent with a game. Like, I'd say more so than The Last of Us. Like, it just, every bit of it is good. There was not really a time where I was like, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. The whole way through, it was just great.
The only problem I had with it was the Valkyries.
Yeah,
because I'm
those
not
are
a hard game guy.
Yeah, I mean, those are not required at all. I only tried them once, and then I was like, I'm done. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But as far as like start to finish of the game, I was happy with every bit of it.
Yeah, I beat the Valkyries.
Yeah.
Oh,
See, I'm a Dark Souls guy, and I didn't feel like doing that.
Yeah, I got to platinum on God of War. It took almost 50 hours, but I loved there's nights where I go in there and just did that one world where it's pretty much the levels where you're going to fight the fighting pits.
Helheim?
Oh, yeah.
Is it Helheim?
I think so. I love that game so much.
I'd say you did really well to platinum in 50 hours. I wouldn't have thought.
I got to look at my time, but I think it was like
That's
50 hours.
impressive. But okay, honorable mentions, since you brought up the Valkyries, made me think of Dark Souls and Bloodborne. I had both of those on my list.
I had Bloodborne on mine.
Bloodborne was going to go on my list for someone who doesn't like Souls games. I like the aesthetic of Bloodborne.
Would it have made it if I'd have put Bloodborne above Dark Souls 3?
Yeah, because Bloodborne's on mine.
Must have had it low, Eric, because
Yeah, Eric had that number. No, it wouldn't have made it.
I know Bloodborne's on yours, and then I had Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Yeah.
That was
that's a
mine.
good one. Yeah, I didn't even, that one didn't cross my mind, but it is definitely among the best games of this decade. I had Dark Souls 3 above Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Just, it was my first Souls game, and so that just holds a better place in my heart.
Special spot.
But I think most people would probably say Bloodborne. Like, I feel like there's a bigger group speaking out for that being, probably the number one.
Bloodborne is my favorite Souls game. I think you're on to something with that because it was like the first one I played.
Right.
So I think it's kind of like the final. They say that whatever Final Fantasy game is your first is gonna be your favorite. I think
That
it's the
makes
same
sense.
with the Souls. Souls.
That's
game.
interesting. Never heard that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a honorable mention for me. I didn't put on my list because I knew you guys wouldn't put it on your list, and I knew it would be low, so it would just be kind of a waste of a spot.
Yeah.
It's Sleeping Dogs.
That's a good game.
I talk about Sleeping Dogs ad nauseum, but I think it's a fantastic crime game in China, Hong Kong. You know, the character's cool as hell. He's voiced by a guy that's cool as hell, and the fighting fantastic. So, and the customization, it's all there. It hits on all levels for me.
Yeah, I liked that game when I played it, but I think it needs AAA to reach this list for me. But I definitely see the pieces there if they got the budget behind it, to make everything streamlined with cutscenes like these games. These are just, most of these games are huge, I thought about putting Hades on here, and I was like, I just can't bring myself to put it above some of these that have such high production value.
And how are you going to put it above Skyrim where you play like thousands of hours?
Right, yeah. That did contribute a lot to the list.
Yeah.
And then GTA 5 is also another one of my honorable mentions.
I was kind of surprised between the two of you that it didn't make it. I was never a big GTA 5 fan.
I think it's just like I kind of looked at it as if I want to put Red Dead, I didn't want to put something else.
Yeah.
So Red Dead 2 is my favorite Rockstar game. So.
Yeah.
That's true. Oh, you almost said Rocksteady, and that reminds me of another one that probably could have made this list.
Arkham City was on mine.
Yeah, it was on Eric's honorable mentions.
See, that would have got messed up if I had to put Arkham Knight, because then it would have been all split. But I love both of those games. I just prefer Knight personally.
Yeah.
I think what people are going to start to see about me is I like the subpar sequels.
Yeah.
You like
Everyone's-
it? Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that everybody's like, it ain't as good as this one. I'm like,
But
I
when
like
you
the
have
better.
Spider-Man on your list, you can't really put Batman because Spider-Man is just so much of a better game.
Oh, that's a hot take.
That's a
I wouldn't
real
say
hot
so
take.
much of a better game. It's different enough.
It's a different game than Arkham City.
Yeah, I mean, there are similar things that I like about both of them, but then there are different things about them that I like.
That's a good debate.
Yeah.
It really
Would
is.
you rather play Spider-Man PS4 or Arkham Knight?
Let us know
Spider-Man
if you want to have a debate episode
Yeah.
where we go back and forth.
We could do
one
that.
of us picks
Arkham Knight.
Arkham City, Arkham Knight,
Yeah, whatever.
and the other one picks
Pick your
Spider-Man.
poison.
Yeah.
Why don't you just bring the Arkham trilogy against Spider-Man?
That's not
Arkham.
No, that's not
would-
even fair. I'm joking. But the Spider-Man trilogy, when it's over with, it's gonna be hopefully it's gonna be talked about the
Yeah,
same way.
I think
Yeah.
they're going to trend up.
And I kind of hate that saying that because I'm a DC guy.
Oh,
But
I am
yeah.
too. But Spider-Man's Spider-Man at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
So that was our top 10 games from 2010 to 2019. If you have any, comments or anyone that you didn't like or you did like, put it in our comment section and we'll be down there chatting it up with you guys. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you will. It helps us out a lot. We don't really have a whole lot of subscribers yet, and we'd like to keep that number up.